Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, let's call to order the regular board meeting. It is September 10th, 2024 for the Tuscaloosa City Schools. Let's observe a period of silence, and then we'll follow that by the Pledge of Allegiance. Specifically in your prayers and thoughts tonight, keep our own Dr. KTJ in your thoughts and prayers as she lost her mom. And of course, the city of Winder, Georgia, and the entire Barrow County school system for the horrific event at Appalachia High School last week. Let's keep those in our thoughts and close to our hearts, and then we'll follow that by the pledge. Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, board. Dr. Darius, welcome back.
Thank you.
I trust that the city school program was an amazing success.
It really is, and what an incredible program for our city and for our city schools. Thank you.
Well, we're glad that you went, and I know those are very meaningful programs. I think I participated in as a student, I think the very first or the second one in Japan, and it's something awesome that we do. So congratulations, and thank you for keeping that program thriving.
Thank you.
Board, may I have a motion to adopt the September 10th regular board meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? That'd be approved. Item 4, board may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 20th, 2024 regular board meeting and the minutes of the September 3rd, 2024 called board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Those will be approved. Item 5 is public comments on non-agenda items, and I don't see anyone signed up this evening. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? All right, item 6, information reports from the superintendent and executive staff. Tonight we will hear from.
Excuse, I'm sorry. He didn't know to sign in.
Does he want to speak tonight?
Yeah, it's good, it's brief.
Absolutely. Good evening. Yes, sir, if you'll come to the podium. And if you'll introduce yourself to the board, and we'll give you 5 minutes to tell us what you want us to hear.
Yes, sir. Good evening, board. My name is Kyle Bradford, and I'm an assistant volunteer coach at Paul W. Bryant High School, and I'm also a 2013 graduate of Bryant High School. Have a few concerns. Our current batting cage, the state that it's in is almost like it's unbearable. You know, it's like gravel, rocks, and it's just tons of weeds that we really can't do anything about. They just constantly grow back each year. What I want to ask and know if there's any way that we can get a slab, concrete, and get it maybe turf, and also a pavilion or something to just make our conditions better. We are a 6A program, and we want to look like such.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming here tonight to address the board. We'll certainly get with Mr. Smith, who's in charge of facilities, and get back in touch with you, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We normally don't come in, in detail about anything that's brought up like you. We'd like to talk to you if you get a chance. If you give you a card, if you stick around to the end of the meeting, you can.
Yes,
or
sir.
if you want to just get a card, I'd like to talk to you.
Okay, that's fine. I can I'll get your contact. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Mr. Bradford.
Okay, item 6, information reports. Tonight we will hear from Mr. Jay Duke, our CSFO. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I have the pleasure of bringing the second reading of the FY25 budget. Our proposed budget is for the period October 1, 2024 through September 30th of 2025. Again, we had a first reading last week, and this is our second reading. So, to the presentation, We are looking at a $6 million budgeted deficit the upcoming year. The reason we are able to do that is because of strategic savings and implementation of and application of our COVID CARES relief funds. And so we have been able to build up a temporary, and I want to repeat that, a temporary savings account, which will allow us, I'm going to call it a landing strip coming out of these CARES funds. So again, a $6 million budgeted deficit. A couple things I'd like to look at and go over with you, a few slides here. I will talk about our sources of funds across all of our fund sources and our general fund, capital projects fund, our special revenue funds. So just kind of an overview of our funding sources. 13% federal. Chris, I think that'll be the third slide. Yeah. 13% federal. 46% of our funds are state funds. Think of the State Foundation Program, as the Alabama Department of Education calls it. Our county funds are about 37% of our funds. Think property tax, sales tax, car tax. And then the city and some other funds make up 4%. But also want to mention briefly, our city does a lot of other things as well. They pay debt service on the 3 high schools from 2003. The city provides us with Elevate dual enrollment, summer learning, and pre-K. They also provide police officers to a lot of our schools, and then they provide Elevate athletic supplements, which started last year. Now we are in year 2. Thank you. So inside that county sources of funds that you just saw, there's a breakdown between those property tax, sales tax, and then some other kind of miscellaneous appropriations. But you see the bulk of it's property tax, sales tax trailing closely behind. So they're 45% property tax, 43% sales tax, again, of our local sources in our general fund. Those are kind of our discretionary revenues. All of our federal funds and most of the state foundation funds are funds that we have to spend it like they tell us to spend it. These funds that you see on this particular slide give us some local discretion. The next slide shows our budgeted salaries and benefits inside of our general fund. And I think one thing that's key and one thing that we're proud of here is that 78% of our budgeted salaries and benefits inside the general fund go to instructional related services. You see all the others are around 4 to 6%, but our instructional and our instructional related services are 78%. We talked about our local sources of funds of property tax and sales tax, and here specifically a lot of the things that they go towards. Each and every thing you see on that slide has some component of local funds that support it. Some highlights, and the big thing this year is, again, we're coming out of the CARES funds. We've saved some money to be able to absorb some of those things that are pulled back into the general fund that we temporarily parked into ESSER funds for 4 years that allowed us to build up this reserve. So that's the big item there. Also, we've had to take on Brewer Porch. The University of Alabama closed Brewer Porch. That's approaching about $1.2 million so far that we were not expecting back in about March, that we've had to pull back into the fold. Of our overall general fund budget, 70% is instructional and related expenditures, after school and pre-K. So 70% is in the classroom, after school, and pre-K, all of those instructional related services that you think of. So you might wonder, what are the other 30%? The other 30% are things like transportation, operational services to keep up our 21 campuses, our bus shop, our central office and buildings and structures. Here's our budget worksheet document, again, with all the funds going from left to right, general, special revenue, debt service. You know, one thing I'd like to mention about that debt service, if you look down there and you see that $11 million number kind of towards the middle bottom there, that's going to pay for all those good buildings that we've got from the 2015 and 16 comprehensive capital plan. So we have about $10 million. We have 6 mills that are pledged just for debt service. So we pay about $10 million a year just on our buildings. The projection is at the end of FY '25, which would be September of 2025, we still should have about a 2.5 month fund balance reserve. The state of Alabama requires 1 month reserve by law. That's about $12 million. So we have to wake up with $12 million by state law. The board policy is 1 3/4 reserve with a goal of 2 months. So just to put 2 months reserve in perspective, that's about $24 million. So right now we're at more than that, but we expect to end at about 2.5 months. That projecting that on out 1 more year, that we think that gives us about 1 more year, and then a lot of things change. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. Again, this is a second reading, but I'd certainly like to entertain any questions.
Board members, any questions for Mr. Duke?
Thank you for the time that you spent for each of us going over these numbers and the details.
My
The
pleasure.
Time and effort, your whole team. Thank you very much.
Hey, Jay, just for information, can you sort of say the percentage of what, I know there's a small minority of people that like to blast us and the system for being top-heavy. Can you say what that percentage is of the total budget?
Mr. Chairman, I can tell you exactly what that is, and it is on that slide right there. Under General Administrative Services, that number computes out to 3.91%, 3.91%. And I think it's worth noting that the state of Alabama Superintendent of Education recommends that number be around 5%. We are now a full percentage point. That may not sound like a lot, but on a $190 million budget, and we've worked hard since 2019 to get that down, and we work every day to get that down and keep an eye on that, because we want the funds flowing into the classroom. You saw the percentages earlier on some of those slides, and as that number in instructional services get bigger, the central office number gets smaller, and we're proud of that.
Thank you, sir.
I'm also proud of that. Great job.
Thank
Oh, yeah, great job. And since Eric made mention of what people think, could you tell us about the audit really fast, really quick? What's the findings on our audit?
We had
in case
no,
somebody didn't know.
we had no findings, and again, we wake up every morning with an audit hat on, so to speak, to internal controls, accountability, and transparency. And so, yes, we are very proud of that. You know, we every day I walk in the office, I realize it's not my money. This is taxpayer money, and we respect that. And I know this board respects that too. And that's a burden and a badge of honor that we wear every day when we walk in that office.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duke.
I have two. One, can you go back, so how much was our deficit, or how much, explain what that means, because some people see a reserve, and explain again, how much are we required by law to keep? Because I think what some are questioning is, you have a reserve, or you have money. You keep bragging on you have saved money because of Ursa. Well, I don't think there's a disconnect somewhere. Maybe we aren't telling the story the way that it needs to be told. So I apologize for that, because I got that question. But can you re-educate us real briefly on the reserves and the fact that you have said, and I think the sound box says, Jay Duke says we are in good financial shape. But in my mind, I think that that's what we want us to be for a year. You don't want us to be in a negative, but we are going in that direction.
And I would maybe say it slightly different. We are temporarily in good shape. And there's a reason, and that's because this board elected to strategically use those ESSER and CARES funds to allow us to build up this reserve. We did not buy any fluff. We didn't buy any turf fields. That's nothing against anybody that elected to do that, but this board didn't elect to do it. We put the money in the classroom, and that allowed us to build up a reserve. So again, a temporary reserve. And so wherever we're at now, we're drawing down $6 million, not by adding anything. In fact, we reduced our central office cost. But that 1 month reserve is $12 million. And so when you start taking $6 million off the top this year, that number next year will probably be about $7 million. Then you start approaching that $12 million requirement that the state requires. And we don't want to be there. We want to stay above that.
So what happens if 2025, if we are drawn down? What does the state do, if anything? What happens?
Well, I think in 2025, we still should be a little bit above that. But if you drop below that, you can look no further than Sumter County. They can take you over. And again, we're okay for about a year or so. But, you've seen inflation, you've seen the cost of doing business. And when I come back with the financial reports the next time, you're going to see that the last 2 months of sales tax, you've been hearing me say for months that it's leveled off. Well, now the last 2 months have dropped. So we had been hearing that was coming. So revenue not only has leveled off now, almost a year, the last 2 months it's dropped. So what you're going to have is a decrease in revenues. Expenditures are not going down, and so that disconnect can't last long.
And then the last thing, the gentleman that just spoke was asking about a concrete pad. I don't know. I'm sorry. Heard half of it. Funds have to come from somewhere in order to do that. Upgrades on facilities. There has to be a fund or a bucket in order to do those things. He said something about 6A school. Sorry, I'm not in the athletics, I'm more in the education, so I'm tracking mentally. But yes, we want to look that way. We want to look a certain way, and in order to do that, we have to have funds to do those type of things.
And let's hit that straight on. Those funds for those particular items, gentlemen, Steve here, but we appreciate his comments, and we'll take a look at that. But funds like that, specifically for what he was talking about, would come from this slide right here, and that's property tax and sales tax. We do not get money from the federal government nor the state government for athletics or arts. We get just the core requirements for an 8 o'clock to 3:30 school day. So when we talk about, you saw another slide that talked about after school, and so right there on that slide, instructional and related expenditures and after school and pre-K. We get some funding for pre-K, some for after school, but a lot of that's local funding. The state basically funds a school day. Just think of that, just a regular school day and your regular coursework. But arts, music, debate club, STEM clubs, robotics clubs, those are extra, those are local funds. And so those type items, again, and that, like that gentleman was mentioning, that's going to come from local funds.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts or questions for Mr. Duke?
I think it goes underline deficit spending, but it was planned. We've been planning for this deficit spending before COVID, knew it was coming. The time came now, and it's because we were able to build up the funds that are allowing us to do this. This is not spending haphazardly, hoping the money shows up to clear it. This is spending out of reserves, not spending out of.
And spending it, well said, Mr. Hammond, and spending it in the classroom on things that we have seen that are working.
Right.
So is that proactive or being reactive?
Exactly. We think it's being proactive.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Great job, Mr. Duke.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Duke.
Ms. Grant.
You can loosen your tie now. No, you felt like, oh, gosh, he's coming at me.
No, it's all good questions, and I, I just want to say, thank you to my office and my staff. They do a great job. Our books are always open. I come here once a month, but we've had people from the community as recent as today and this week and the prior weeks. I know we got this referendum coming up, but our books are always open. They're posted online, as a matter of fact, but I'll email a copy of somebody, sit down and go over it with them. So our books are always open. We're going to be as transparent can be.
And that's what I wish and hope in the future. I don't have to be sitting here, whomever's sitting here. I think it's the same sentiment for all of us. It's great. It's not great, but it's great that people have concerns. So you have a question, you should ask.
That's right.
But even after the vote is taken, you can come ask a question anytime. Don't wait till we're pushing something to now there's this concern like we got a smoking cloud or we're not going to do the 3 buckets that we said. I would challenge and I would hope that people a year from now come fill this room, ask the questions, because that's what we're elected for. And then we are to ask you, but then you're even going a step above and saying, my door is open. You don't have to come through us. You can come straight. And there's some layers of organizations where that's not the way it's going to work. You're not going to walk in and speak to a bookkeeper or a CFO. You're still going to have to go through the proper procedures. But what you're saying is, my door is open, schedule an appointment, come look and let's have some dialogue. Because if there's something we're not explaining correctly, we need to make sure the public understands. So it's better to be proactive than reactive.
Absolutely.
We got some choices now. So we are attempting to be proactive. And the little sound bite is really cute with you on it that says, we're in good shape. But you clarify that by saying it's temporary. It's temporary. So I think people need to hear that sound bite as well.
And the background on that is we spent 4 years working on that so that we'd have 2 years of being good temporarily. So that was cut and pasted to meet somebody else's needs.
All right,
I'm done,
thank you, sir.
Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Duke.
All right, item 7, introductions of motions, resolutions for a first reading, of which there are none. Brings us to item 8, which is the consent agenda. We have 8A, B, C, and D. Board may have a motion to approve consent agenda items 8A, B, C, and D.
So, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Those will be approved. Item 9, regular agenda items for final adoption. 9A, approved superintendent's recommendations regarding changes in personnel. Good evening, Dr. Cameron.
Good evening. You have the superintendent's recommendations regarding changes of personnel. You also have the supplemental list. I will go through both with you. Starting on page 1, you have 2 resignations, 26 reassignments, 276 part-time extended day tutors, carries us to page 8. You have 4 2024-25 athletic supplement removals. You have 2 24-25 contract coach removal. You have 4 supplements for teaching during the planning period. For the supplemental list, you have 3 resignations, 1 new support personnel, 1 transfer of support personnel, 1 reassignment, and 102 part-time extended day tutors, which carries us to page 4. You have 1 24-25 contracted coach and 1 24-25 1 contracted coach removal.
Okay, board, long list. I'll give you a few seconds or however much time you need for, do I have any set-asides for a separate vote? All right, board, last call for a set aside. Okay, hearing none, board may have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
All right, questions or discussion by number?
Dr. Cameron, there's a couple of these on the part-time extended day tutors that are listed twice, like 7, 8, and 80, 81. Is that a typo?
Say the numbers one more time.
Supplemental 7, 8,
Yeah, those are typos,
and
sorry.
80, 81,
Yeah, they are.
and 82, 83.
Got those late today, and so we're trying to get those on the list.
Totally fine.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. 311,
Well,
regular.
one on 7, that's a teacher, and then 8 is when he or she may be a director. So that's why you got 7 and 8 like that. You get different amounts,
Right.
salary amounts. So the same person, but she may be a teacher in 21st Century, but she also may be a director when time permits.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions before I call for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Those will be approved. Thank you, sir. Item 9B, discuss approved job description for ARI interventionist. Dr. Pope, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Board. This job description is for an ARI interventionist, Alabama Reading Initiative interventionist. It was grant funded for TASPA and Southview. All of our elementary schools wrote for the grant. However, this grant comes with 8 different requirements that is outside of our normal job description based on intervention for our struggling readers, and in supporting those, they have to perform requirements that the grant is asking for. Any questions?
Okay, board may have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions for Dr. Pope about the job description? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? That'll be approved.
Thank you.
9C, discuss approve fiscal year 25 budget for Tuscaloosa City School System. Mr. Duke has already presented, so board may have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any additional questions or discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? That'll be approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
5-year plan.
9D, discuss approve second reading of the 2025 5-year capital plan for Tuscaloosa City Schools. Mr. Smith?
Good evening, Board. I'm presenting the 2025 capital plan. There has been no changes since our call board meeting on September 3rd, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, board may have a motion to approve.
So-
We have a motion?
Oh, yeah, motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions for Mr. Smith? Call for a vote. All in favor?
One statement, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that, everybody that's listening and see this 5-year plan, that a lot of these things are unfunded, but it's just a process that we send to the state each year to update the 5-year plan, that just in case money show up, and if we don't have it on the 5-year plan, then if the state happen to find some money they're gonna send us, we can't do it. So we have to submit this plan. So even though things are listed on this plan, it's not saying that we're gonna go out and do all those, but just in case
That is,
money show up,
that is correct, sir.
it's got to be on that plan,
And it's mandated. We do.
mandated by the state.
That is correct.
Okay, call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Be approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Item E, executive session, 9E. Mr. Ryan, good evening, sir.
I need a moment for board
Okay, board, may I have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will now adjourn into executive session. When we come back to adjourn, there's really no business to tend to. So we'll be back shortly.
Shortly.